Cool. So I think a good place for us to start, Bob, would be, could you tell us about your business, what you do, the customers you serve, and like maybe like a quick history as well, just about the company.
Sure. Yeah. So Cobalt is a digital marketing agency focused primarily on driving traffic for our clients. We focus specifically in the area of manufacturing and industrial clients. That's my background. I owned a manufacturing company for about 23 years before starting this. So I'm really kind of working with people that I know a lot about, and we're really helping these guys understand how to use digital and kind of come into the current century and start driving more business.
Cool, cool. Okay, got you. And maybe tell us a little bit about um, how long you've been in. You've obviously been in the manufacturing space for a long time, but how long you've been in the digital marketing space, and I guess why?
Sure.
Like, why would you even want to go into the digital marketing space from what you've been?
That's a good question. So, my first company, the manufacturing company, actually, I started. I'm a sales guy, so a lot of manufacturing companies are started by technical people. I'm a sales guy, so I hired the technical people. So back then, this was pre-internet. We would get a lead list. We would have a telephone, and we would just pound on the phones and acquire our customers that way, and through trade shows. So after I sold my manufacturing business, it was kind of a natural move to go into doing some kind of sales consulting for a lot of these tech-owned, technically or engineer-based and manufacturing and industrial companies. So I was doing some consulting, initially, but then really realized that the whole fundamental shift that had gone on because of the internet, and how that affected the sales strategy and how we go about doing things. So I took off about 18 months and did some real research and a deep dive into understanding the fundamental changes the internet made to sales and marketing. And then I recognized how that fit or how it could fit into industrial companies, and then came out with Cobalt as a full agency where we're providing all the services necessary as opposed to just sales consulting, because really the sales consulting aspects had changed so much. It's really become more of a marketing focus, at least initially, in terms of getting leads and that sort of thing.
Got you. Okay, cool, cool. Well, maybe tell us a little bit, Bob, around how you sort of generate clients. Like, I guess before working with us, like what were you doing? Like, what was the current strategy to grow? What was the lead gen approach that you were using, I guess, before?
Yeah, there certainly was, even though we do digital marketing, but there was certainly a certain amount of frustration on my part. I used a variety of methods. I actually did had a calling system that I used that was it was expensive, very aggressive. It would actually use live agents to go out and make the calls. They'd queue up 10, 15 calls at a time. As soon as they get a live person who was a good fit, I'd get a click, and then I'd start a call. So that was one way. Another way was just really kind of a manual approach of finding kind of an account-based marketing approach, going after specific companies that I thought were a good fit. And I'd say the problem with both of those, and again, they were effective to an extent, but not to the extent that we really wanted to grow. Because the problem was a lot of these industrial companies, that we did contact or we thought would be a good fit, weren't all that interested in growth necessarily, and then others, really weren't receptive to new ideas. A lot of these manufacturing companies have been around a long time, and it takes a certain kind of person to really have the light bulb go off and say, hey, we need to do things a little bit differently here. Again, the problem that we were running into is that, we were getting conversations with people, but we weren't really getting the right people because they were not really opting in. We were approaching them. So that's when, we kind of made the move to working with you guys and working on some of that messaging, where, when we're contacting these people, we're putting the message out there first. So if they opt in, we know right away that these are people that at least want to have growth, or they are interested in new ideas and new approaches. So it's really been, the meetings have been great since doing it that way.
For sure. Okay, cool. Well, I guess naturally the next question I would sort of follow up with is like, what's your experience been like with working with us so far in terms of like the lead gen strategy, the outreach, like your whole sort of overall experience thus far?
Sure. I'd say that, when we first started working together and we were kind of throwing some ideas out, a lot of the initial leads that we were getting weren't exactly a good fit. But what we did is we worked over time, using some of my background and knowledge on pulling some leads, and then working with your team to really kind of refine that process. And when we did that, it was like not only did our lead volume increase tremendously. In fact, we've had this conversation where it's like, I need to take a little breather here because there are too many coming in. But, I would say, a good 70% of these leads that are coming in are very solid, ideal fit type customers. And the other ones, I think are still potentially good customers, but what I'm looking at doing now is finding a different offering that I can offer these guys that, may not be a fit for our primary product, but I think, we still can service these guys in a certain way. So, I really think almost all the leads we're getting now are very good, and the volume is unbelievable. I mean, it's really by far, and I've been working on lead gen of my own and using different techniques for about 5 years. Far and away the best, and that's 100% true. I mean, that's just not me stroking you guys. It really is good stuff.
Yeah, for sure. No, and I think a big part of the success here, Bob, is like exactly who you're going after, right? We can get the messaging correct, and,
right.
And you're right in the sense that we can sit on the outside of the industry and make some pretty good educated guesses using like AI and these types of things. But when you have industry knowledge and we have sort of decent strategic knowledge, we can sort of come together and get that really working well. And so that's what I've seen happen here. Cool. And I guess like we talk to a lot of different people every day, not just agency owners, B2B business owners, and often the main problem they have is lead gen, either quality with lead gen or quantity or a mixture of both, or they're just lost. Like, what would you say to somebody who might be struggling in that area? Maybe they're looking to have a chat with us, maybe they're not. Like, what would you say to someone who could be sitting on the fence about wanting to sort of reach out and connect?
Sure. Yeah, well, as you and I have talked about, and we've developed I think a really good relationship since working closely, is I'm actually looking at using you guys for some of my clients that I think would really be a good fit, because I'm very familiar with cold email. I've used it a fair bit. I've done a lot on my own, but you guys are at a whole different level than what we can do. You're really, between the messaging and the technology part of it, there's no question you're getting in front of the right people, and as long as you get that right message out there and you're using the strategies from very short poignant emails to the videos to some of the psychological aspects of that. This is something new to me that I've been learning from you guys, are some of the psychological tactics you get people to get kind of excited or and really curious about what you're doing, which is what we all are looking for. It's like if I can just get in front of somebody, we can get them interested. But again, everybody gets so many emails that it really takes a high level to get people to jump in. And then I guess I'd add to that, some of the work that we've been doing on the sales side, on the follow-up side. It's like, it's not just getting the leads here, but, and I've had a lot of leads over the years, and a lot of them have come a long way and then kind of dropped when it came down to talking about pricing and actually making the move. And our pricing was good. It wasn't like, we were crazy high. It's just, as we talked about, they're making that next leap was a big struggle, and you guys have really helped develop that, and so we're getting a lot more traction that way.
Totally. Yeah, tightening that sales process, because ultimately the game, like we talk about this all the time, Bob, but you've got lead gen, that's part of the game, and then the rest of it is going to be sales process, and you sort of put it together to play the game of acquisition. But
yeah,
you have to have both in order to win. You can't just have one or the other. You need both.
Well, and I think it is good for people that are considering what you guys are doing, what you offer, to to step back and many of us, including me, kind of come in and say, well, if you just give me the leads, I can do the rest of the sales process. And I've been selling a long time, but there's always something new to learn, and I think you can get better at it. So I would encourage people that if they do sign up and start getting the leads, to also really invest in closing, because and getting using your sales process, because I think it's very valuable, and there's a lot you can learn even if you've been at this a long time, because I think it's always evolving.
Totally. No, cool. Well, that's pretty much everything I wanted to go over with you here, Bob. So, I'll stop this recording here.
Yep.
Thanks.